day my gynecologist confirmed I was pregnant, I couldn't wait a second more to tell my alpha, Elliot Hudson. My heart was bursting with joy until my phone lit up with a message that read, "Elliot will be engaged to me in 30 minutes. His office. Come if you dare." I practically ripped open the door of a taxi and shot straight to Elliot's office. But just as my hand hit the executive room doorknob, I froze by the loud and obnoxious cheering blasting from inside. I leaned back, squinting through the blinds. That sight shattered my world. Eli Jones was there, grinning smug like a winner, sliding a ring onto Elliot's finger. And on Elliot's desk sat the ring I had given him on the day we vowed our undying love to each other 3 years ago. The crowd around Eli I recognized were his entourage of spoiled heirs clinging to his coattails like a pack of dogs with family's alliance. The dogs cheered the couple on wildly. I braced myself to go inside, to pull Elliot out of this ridiculous circus. But my leg went stiff the next instant I saw Elliot not just took the ring obediently, he didn't even flinch as Eli Jones leaned in to kiss him on the lips. That bunch of spoiled heirs erupted with more jeers, howling the kiss to deepen. "So you finally figured it out," Eli said, after breaking off the kiss that made both their lips red. "Only someone like me can actually lift your stakes in your Hudson family. You want to the next level, I'll give you the escalator. You should have divorced Tianyu. Even if he cranked out 1,000,000 bento boxes, he'd still be dead weight. And he reeks of vinegar. No perfume can hide it." Eli Jones wasn't wrong. This rich heiress of the Jones Merchant Bank had the right push to launch Elliot's foothold in the Hudson family. Elliot Hudson was, after all, only an illegitimate son, stuck in his brother's shadow. And me, just a food truck guy, selling healthy bento lunches outside the university. We never had the grand wedding. The Hudsons never acknowledged me. So we slipped into the civil affairs office 3 years ago, signed our names quietly, leaving the office laughing like two silly elopers, holding out little red book. That night, we celebrated out marriage in our little ways. A riverside candlelit dinner, musicians playing as if the whole world had narrowed to just the two of us. Back then, it felt perfect. An alpha who adored me, and me loving him with total abandon. I'd believed true love could outlast anything. I'd thought our simple dinners of steamed buns and pickled vegetables were our unique love story. Our weekend bicycle rides, with me perched on the back, beneath rows and rows of spring crabapple blossoms during spring, and ginkgo gold leaves during autumn, felt like the sequel to our happy ending. But the moment Elliot let Eli Jones slip into the center of his life and quietly pushed me out so far, he even removed the wedding ring he'd worn for 3 unbroken years, even in showers, I finally understood. The joke had always been on me. The one-sided fool thinking love could be permanent. Happily ever after was a bedtime lie. A fairy tale for children too young to know better because in reality, fairies don't exist. And then there was that famous tune all third wheels love to hum. When you're not the one loved, you step aside. Fine, fine. That's me, the one unloved because Elliot's heart had left me. My love stripped from his ring finger and left on his cold, pristine desk. Since that was the case, I no longer needed this alpha, because my pride forbade me from begging. I picked up my phone and called my mother-in-law. "Give me 5 million, I said, and I'll walk out of his life for good." Mrs. Hudson didn't even hesitate, delighted even, that I'd finally come around to my senses. She'd been harping on this long before Elliot and I were married. Afraid I might change my mind, Mrs. Hudson came flying in with a lawyer in tow. I looked at the divorce papers. Just a year ago, behind Elliot's back, she had shoved them at me several times. Her reasons hadn't changed. I couldn't give him a child, and my food truck was a stain on their polished reputation. Elliot found out later and knelt in the ancestral hall for days, taking his father's beatings in silence, demanding they accept me. The Hudson elders only relented only after Elliot's 3-day hunger strike landed him in a hospital bed. From then on, they never mentioned divorce again. In the 3 years of marriage, I wasn't allowed at their major family events and never touched a single cent from their so-called family wealth. But I hadn't craved it either. I never even asked. As long as Elliot was willing to stick by me, I could weather any storm. Elliot was kind and sweet and didn't even mind living in the modest corner of the city. I chose this place for its proximity to the university where I ran my stall. More than once, Mrs. Hudson tried to pay me to leave whenever they found a pedigree match for Elliot. I was once tempted to take the money just to escape the endless harassment. But Elliot had begged me, "Tianyu, I can't live without you. Please wait. I promise I'll secure your rightful place in the Hudson family." But that recognition never came. Instead, I watched him accepted Eli Jones's proposal, our 8 years of trust, crumbling in an instant. My mother-in-law had been right. My mind filled with the image of my prominent alpha and his elegant omega heiress, standing side by side, looking down at me. My eyes followed their gaze back to myself. Cheap t-shirt, faded color pants, sour tang of raw salmon clinging to me like a second skin. My hands rough, skin cracked from labor. In that moment, their scorn felt almost justified. Mrs. Hudson slammed her hand on the divorce papers, snapping me out of my thoughts. "Sign it," she reminded. "This $5 million is yours." My eyes widened as they landed on the husband's line. Elliot's signature, unmistakably, already there. When had he signed it? Or had they forged Elliot's signature? Whatever. I no longer cared. His name in black ink was proof enough he wanted out. I couldn't keep wasting myself like this. Better to take the money, walk away, and start living my own life. With that sudden clarity, I put my name on the page. The moment my pen lifted, Mrs. Hudson's face lit up with satisfaction. "My son may not see it, but I do. You may have saved him once, but that only proves you knew his noble status all along. You were just waiting for your chance to climb high and play Phoenix. Poor Elliot, mistaking a gold digger like you for true love." I'd already made peace with leaving Elliot Hudson, so her scorn no longer touched me. With a smile, for the first time, I talked back to her. "Let's be honest, Mrs. Hudson, without me, your darling son would already be 6 feet under years ago. And you think his life worth only $5 million? You should be grateful I didn't ask for another zero." Truth was, Elliot was the illegitimate son of Tom Hudson. His mother was Tom Hudson's mistress, and Elliot existed as the backup son in a country that allowed just 3 births per family. He spent his boyhood in a flat that always smelled faintly of wet plaster and cheap cooking oil. The money his chicken shit father sent was only a little more to keep the lights on. At 14, the world pulled the floor from under him. His mother was killed in a hit and run. Whether it was a real accident or not, no one could say for sure. With no relatives willing to take him in, and refusing to acknowledge Tom Hudson as his biological father, the social welfare office simply placed him in a random countryside orphanage. Life in the orphanage meant cold walls, thin mattresses, and meager meals, with discipline coming hard. Every day was a quiet battle just to stay out of sight. One summer of the age of 17, a group of bigger boys held him underwater. He was smaller than most, malnourished from years of barely eating. He didn't stand a chance. When he stopped struggling in the water, the boys panicked and flee. I was a strong swimmer. My family had lived off fishing for generations. I rushed into the river and pulled Elliot out, gave him mouth to mouth, and brought him back from the edge. That was how we first met. After that, Elliot didn't want to go back to the orphanage. He ended up living with me and my dad in our shabby little coastal home. With us, Elliot discovered a kind of calm he'd never known before. Later, Elliot decided he wanted to further his studies and take exams to escape orphanage life for good. And my family, which was living on a meager seafood income, helped support his dream anyway. And me? School books and I had an unspoken understanding. Unless it was comics, they stayed out of my life. After my dad passed, I took over the home-based business, snakehead fish balls and stuffed tofu. It wasn't much, but it kept the gas on and somehow supported Elliot as he clawed his way all the way to grad school. Eventually, his biological family found him. Apparently, Tom Hudson had been searching ever since learning about his mistress' death. Yet the Hudsons never once acknowledged my sacrifices, never saw how I sheltered their precious bloodline. Instead, they treated me like an inconvenient problem they couldn't shake. Elliot always said He'd convince his parents to accept me. I saw he had tried, but his spine wasn't strong enough. And the distance between us widening. Mrs. Hudson slid a bank card across the table to me. She took the signed divorce papers. I took the card and tucked it into my jacket. What shall I do next now that I'm single? A 9 to 5 from the bottom rung? Nope, that's the dumbest idea. Now I was rich. With money came choices. Why not travel first? To patch my bleeding heart. Yeah, that sounded about right. Without overthinking, I ducked into the travel agency and grabbed 3 tours, like a kid in a candy store. Why settle for one when you could have 3? After that, I headed home to pack, already picturing myself checking into the Marriott Hotel down the street. When I reached my apartment complex, a sign on the wall said the elevator was dead. Again. Lucky me, my unit was only 4 floors up. Phone light in hand, I climbed. Near my door, a backup bulb dangled. Up ahead, Elliot had just finished fiddling with the lights. His crisp white dress shirt clung with sweat under the harsh glow. Hearing my footsteps, he looked up and frowned. Why didn't you reply to my text? Huh? You texted? I feigned surprise. I'd seen the messages, but I ignored. Elliot gave me the classic reproachful glare and marched over and forced me to set my phone properly. Next time, answer my texts quickly. Don't make me worry, Elliot said, turning back toward our unit. Following behind him, I bit my tongue from saying there wouldn't be a next time, idiot. But just then, the door to our apartment swung open. Eli Jones's head popped out of my apartment in a playful peek. Oh, Tianyu, you're back. I wanted to see what could possibly make Elliot choose this place over his family's 4,000 square foot villa. So I made Elliot bring me here. You don't mind, do you? Before I could retort, Elliot snapped. That's enough, Eli. You've had your fun. Now leave. Tianyu is patient, not like you. Always childish, never maturing. The scene felt alien to me, yet second nature to them, so effortless, so in sync. Eli Jones, with her syrupy smile and fake sweetness, asking if I minded. What nerve! I do mind, I said loudly. Get out. Both of you, right now. Elliot froze. Eli Jones froze. Both of them looked at me like I'd suddenly sprouted horns. Eli Jones, unruffled, grabbed clothes from some shopping bags and spread them across the sofa. Dress shirts and casual wear, crisp as out of the boutique. Hey, Tianyu, don't get upset, Eli said. I got these for you. I've noticed you usually wear thrift store or discounted clothes, so I thought you could use something nicer. They're from my own wardrobe. I promise, I only worn once. Don't be shy. Take them. Eli flicked a glance at Elliot, then back at me, forcing a shaky half-smile. These were all bought with Elliot's money. Think of it as returning them to their rightful owner. They cost a few thousand, not exactly insignificant. Elliot's eyes widened with rage at every absurd word Eli said. What the hell are you talking about, Eli? He shoved the pile of clothes back into Eli's hands like garbage. You like simple clothes because they're comfy and cheap to ruin. Easy to toss if oil or grease hits them. And what do you know aside partying, splurging, running wild? Now take this trash and get out. Back then, words like this would made my heart flutter, my legs jelly, as he shielded my pride. But with distance, I was able to see he wasn't guarding me at all, only revealing how small he thought I was, defined by my bargain clothes and nothing else. Listening to them bicker, I'd had enough. Both of you out. Out. I shoved them out the door and slammed it shut, ignoring Elliot's pounding and pleas. I didn't waver. Not this time. Not ever again. Outside the door, I heard Eli telling Elliot, Tianyu's just angry. As an Omega, I understand Tianyu better than you. Let him calm down before you go soothe him. Okay? Let's go, Elliot. I heard Elliot snorted. If it weren't for you, you wouldn't be mad. Don't come to my house again. Turning to face the door, Elliot shouted, I'm taking Eli home now. I'll be back after, you hear me? He sounded every bit his usual dutiful husband tone. Finally, they left. Peace returned. I locked the front door. I also ignored every knock, Every shout from Elliot when he returned later to find his entry barred. Thinking I was still throwing a tantrum, he left again. To where? I didn't give a shit. But that shit slid its way back to my face anyway barely 30 minutes after Elliot left. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Apologies and frantic explanations from him, and slick provocations from Eli. I ignored them all, and when I didn't respond to a single one, Eli Jones upped his spite with a video. He and Elliot, drinking in a dim-glow private booth. Eli's body totally sunk into Elliot's like he already owned the alpha. His finger flashed a victory sign, daring me. The bartender had clearly been paid to capture every damning second. Beneath the video a message twisted like a knife. Thanks for pushing Elliot away. Now he can stay with me all night. And oh, your timing today was just perfect. Exactly for you to watch. I slipped my ring on his finger. Perhaps now you finally understand Elliot never loved you. We're engaged now. Both families blessed it. His mother even gave me the heirloom bracelet. A rough country Omega like you should leave quietly. Stop grasping for what your dirty hands could never hold. Honestly, that was expected of Eli Jones, doing his green tea shit. The one who truly broke me was Elliot, letting Eli Jones in, letting him do whatever he pleased. Fine, fine. At least that forced me to let go of hope completely. I typed back a single line to Eli. You're right. I'm just a country bumpkin, no match to a top-tier homewrecker like you. After sending it, I immediately blocked Eli Jones. Instantly, I felt lighter than I had in months. That night, I slept like the dead. I woke the next morning naturally, unhurried and blissfully lazy. Normally, I'd be packing bentos in my truck by now, patient as a thousand-handed the god Lord Shiva. But hey, I didn't need sweat money anymore, so why keep grinding? I ignored the hundreds of missed calls and unread messages, took a shower, and hit the mall. Today, I finally wanting nothing but to invest in myself. First stop, a $200 salon session that made me walked out, a K-pop boy vibe. Next, I grabbed a Blueberry casual set, $900. Then I swung by a bag store and splurged on my very first Louis Vuitton Speedy, a whopping 20,000 tag. After that, I stared at myself in the mirror, all decked out and feeling expensive and loving it. Ha ha ha. Who's allergic to shopping? By the time I'd completely transformed into a wannabe Jimin of BTS, my stomach reminded me I wasn't done yet, until I grab a late lunch. The rooftop terrace was perfect. Great Western fusion, open sky, nice breeze. Before I could grab a chair at an empty table, Eli Jones popped into my view. He rudely leaned close, eyeing me over. Fantastic. A daytime ghost. Could my luck get any worse? Wow, Eli exclaimed. I couldn't recognize you at first. But then I had to check, just to be sure it was really you. Before I could mutter get lost, he grabbed my hand and dragged me toward their table. Elliot was there, of course, along with the same batch of dogs who always trailed behind Eli. At first, Elliot didn't recognize his own wife. He just stared at me like an idiot, like I was a stranger. Then realization hit. He stood up quickly, too quickly, his chair toppled backward. For a moment, I thought I saw admiration in his eyes, as if his Omega partner had become someone dazzlingly new. Instead of saying anything nice, he blurted, You? What are you doing here in this mall? I shot back, rolling my eyes and snapped, Why can't I shop here? Oh right, I'd forgotten. This mall was the pinnacle of luxury, where every top brand congregated. Even a box of tissues could buy me 3 food truck bentos. Definitely not a place I could have ever afforded. Eli Jones's eyes scanned me up and down like I was a window display. Disgusted, I turned to walk away. But that Omega ghost still couldn't let me go. Not until they served me mockery. They all burst into laughter in unison. Tianyu, don't you feel embarrassed, head to toe in fakes? One of Eli's lapdogs sneered. Another chimed in, Walking around in imitation in this authentic mall is kind of borderline criminal, don't you think? You're like an Eastern trying to copy a Western beauty in a knockoff. Only makes you look cheaper. Eli Jones, acting savior, jumped guys, cut Tianyu some slack. He's just a working class with big dreams. Wanting luxury isn't a crime. How would he know about copyright or the ways of the elite? But I have to say this knockoff Louis Houghton is impressive. Even a fake this good quality must have cost our Tianyu a fortune. As Eli talked, he flaunted the green jade bracelet on his wrist in my face. The Hudson heirloom. Mrs. Hudson had once paraded it to me but refused to let me touch it. Now Eli Jones wore it, stabbing my eyes with every flick. But that didn't matter. The one I had hoped would come to my rescue just stood there like a pathetic idiot lost for words. How dare he even show me a disappointed face? Elliot finally defrosted from his daze. He looked helpless first, then annoyed. Enough, Yu. Are you seriously lying now just to cover your mistakes? Elliot suddenly strode toward me. He grabbed my shoulder and said, I'm taking you to buy the real thing right now. He spun me, hands reaching to snatch my Louis Houghton he believed was a fake. Don't touch my bag. I slapped his hand away. Elliot's alpha grip was strong, when it didn't need to be. The seam of the leather strap instantly tore. Oh, fucking hell, I yelled. What did you just do to my 20,000 bag? Tears rushed up, stinging my nose before spilling over my eyes. My one and only beautiful asset that made me feel on top of the world just a moment ago was now ruined. I raised my hand and slapped Elliot hard. You piece of shit. I don't ever want to see you again. Elliot didn't dodge. Maybe the slap jolted some sobriety into him. He began to speak softer. Baby, I just don't want you to imitate anyone else. In my eyes, you've always been the only one. To hell you go, I snarled. If you cared at all, you'd have had my back, not groveling alongside these morons. I raised my hand, intending another slap, but too conscious of the many eyes already drawn toward us by the first one. I scoffed loudly and turned, walking away. Elliot started to chase after me, but Eli Jones suddenly cried out, Oh no, Elliot, your mother's bracelet. It's gone. What are we going to do? As expected, Elliot had stopped following. Of course, why would he? I kept walking, not want to waste a single second more of my precious shopping day on that circus. I felt calmer after washing my face. Stepping out of the restroom, I made my way down to the ground floor restaurant by the Japanese garden, far from the rooftop bunch of degenerates. My eyes drank in the Japanese blossoms. Fur Elise playing softly on the background soothed me like Beethoven alive, my stomach easing into serenity until a repulsive name lit up my screen. Nearby diners began eyeing me, debating whether I was a cold CEO or a lunatic to not picking up the incessant calls. What? I snapped into the phone, finally decided to kill the noise nuisance. Before the caller could even get a word out, one Eli Jones lapdog's voice blasted into my ear. Hey everybody. I found Tianyu. He's over here. I turned. The same rooftop bunch of hooligans had all came down, circling my table like sharks. Eli Jones dashed over and flopped into the chair next to me, with a face looking like he'd just discovered the meaning of suffering. Tianyu, I'm sorry for snapping at you earlier, Eli said, grabbing my hand with all the sincerity. I was wrong to call you out for wearing fake. If you're mad, hit me, scold me, I won't mind. But that bracelet, it's the Hudson family heirloom. How am I to explain this to Mrs. Hudson? Just return it to me. Whatever your terms, I'll agree. Eli Jones, did you just accuse me? I snapped. That bracelet's so filthy I wouldn't even touch it, let alone steal it. And then, of all people, my alpha Elliot Hudson stormed over with a frustrated face. That bracelet, my mother only lent it to Eli for a while. It didn't mean anything else. Even if you're upset, you shouldn't stoop so low as to steal it. Just give it back to him. How dare you? I looked at my alpha, or soon-to-be ex-alpha's face with so much hurt. I knew I looked like a Botox disaster even without a mirror. I repeated word by word, I did not steal it. One Eli's dog suddenly stepped forward, pointing a finger at me and said, I saw you toss it over the rooftop railing. It should have landed straight in this Zen garden. You moron. All 6 pairs of eyes. Who exactly saw me toss it? I suggest you check out the mall surveillance to get your facts straight. Deciding I had enough of this nonsense, I stood up to leave. But Elliot grabbed my arm, yanked me off my seat, and dragged me toward the Zen garden. "Let's search together before daylight runs out," he said. Before I could even react, he shoved me all fours on the ornamental turf. The wet grass and clinging soil instantly turned my $400 blueberry pants into a mud-streaked mess. I slapped him again. "Elliot Hudson, I didn't steal it. Why don't you believe me?" He didn't flinch, didn't even dodge. He even had the gall to say, Look, it's not that I don't believe you, but Eli Jones comes from money. Why on earth would he lie about something like this? Forget it. Let's just focus on getting that bracelet back. Okay?" I didn't want to play crazy with him. I reached for my phone and dialed the police. And before I could utter a word, Elliot snatched my phone, swiped it off and stuffed it into his pocket. Under the sweltering late afternoon sun, Elliot kept me on my knees despite my nonstop protest, kneeling and crawling through the bushes, nose to the dirt, hunting a tiny green bracelet like a needle in a haystack. Some waiters offered help. Elliot waved them off. He trusted no one. The sky was bleeding into night. Handphone lights bobbed like fireflies over the bushes. After 2 grueling hours, the bracelet finally found. Elliot smiled triumphant. He hauled me upright, but my knees buckled violently. I nearly pitched backward. He spun around just in time to catch me. "Let's go home. The night air's getting chilly," he said, his voice apologetic. I clung to him. I had to, every bone and muscle in me screaming. As we stumbled out of the garden, frantic shouts cut through the evening. "Elliot, something's wrong with Eli. He fainted." One of Eli's dogs barked. "He's always been fragile. Stress probably." Elliot shot me a flustered glance, like he didn't want to leave me. But in the end, he still said, You go home first. I'm taking Eli to the hospital." He dropped my hand and jogged toward the crowd. "Elliot, help me," I called out to Elliot, breathless. But he didn't hear me. He went with them without so much a glance back. I laughed, but it came out bitter, like I was a clown myself. What did I even expect? Even a stranger would have shown me more kindness. Right then, my love for Elliot felt draining fast, like yanking a plug from a full water basin. My tired body gave up, my knees gave way, and I collapsed onto the nearest rattan sofa. Couldn't even lift a finger. My eyelids got heavy, weighted like stone. Right before it all went black, I saw waiters running toward me. When I came to, I found myself in a hospital bed. Mrs. Hudson stormed toward me, face contorted in hideous scorn, nostrils flaring like an enraged cow. "What?" croaked, voice hoarse. "What have the Hudsons ever done to you in the past life?" She wailed, of all times. "How could you now gotten pregnant? Don't you dare think this buys you a place with Elliot." I just stared at the woman. For what felt like an eternity, my mouth hung open. All right, I just remembered I had a life growing in me. The very child I was supposed to break it to Elliot the day before. The very child we'd waited 3 years for. Arriving only now, when love had already bled dry. Even though I never went to college, but I aced my biology in high school. It all made sense now. The exhaustion, the way my body felt drained before I'd even begun the day. Climbing the stairs felt like scaling Namsan Hill, and even my sleep was bordering on hibernation. Should I cry or laugh? "Relax," I said flatly. "I'm not about to hold your family hostage with a baby. I might not want to keep it. I'll disappear quietly. Give me another 5 million. I said without a shred of shame, suddenly hellbent on taking advantage of the monstrous bargaining chip lodged in my belly. "And if you want for me to be truly gone, stage a fire accident. Burn me clean out of the picture." Yes, I wanted fire, because deep down, I knew Elliot still loved me. It was just that he was too weak, too spineless to fight for me. And I had nothing to give him strength, except the foolish idea of running away together. But I wasn't selfish enough to want that kind of ending for him. He'd been born into privilege with a legacy tag to his name. I still loved him enough to want him to deserve better. Mrs. Hudson's eyes lit up at once with my suggestion, bright and greedy. She looked at me the way someone looks at a coupon for murder. To her, My offer wasn't a burden. It was brunch. Something easy, something she could swallow before her next spoonful of soya custard. More than anything, I wanted the scheme to end quickly. My heart ached recalling how I was humiliated before Eli, how he left me in the Zen garden without a glance back, how he dismissed 8 years as if they were nothing, my love as if it were a burden, my sincerity as if it were some debt. I just wanted out far, fast, gone. And Mrs. Hudson? The kind of woman built for big moves never disappoint. At the hospital, the doctors ran Eli Jones through every test imaginable. All came back perfect. He was as healthy as a racehorse. Still, he clung to Elliot. He whimpered, sighed, pulled faces, played weak, digging into every cliché in the Omega playbook. Even Mrs. Hudson came by, fussing over Eli like a precious piece of Ming Dynasty porcelain antique. "Auntie, I'm scared to stay in the hospital," Eli simpered, shamelessly piling on the spoiled act. Mrs. Hudson's eyes snapped to Elliot, her tone dropping like an imperial decree. "Since Eli needs overnight observation, you'll stay and keep him company. The sofa bed over there is big enough for you." It wasn't a suggestion. What no one else noticed was Mrs. Hudson wasn't just coddling Eli. She was opening a time window for me. While Elliot played nurse to Eli Jones, Mrs. Hudson had her driver quietly ferried me back to the apartment. Back at my apartment, I dragged my suitcases out of what used to be our love nest. I turned back to swipe a last glance. Then, signing heavily, I slipped away into the small hours of the dark night. No sound, no scene, just the ghost of an Omega who loved Elliot Hudson. Back at the hospital, of course Elliot saw through every act Eli Jones put on. Every whimper, every sigh, every flutter of weakness. All staged, transparent as glass. What he truly wanted was to be home with Tianyu, but choice wasn't a luxury he possessed. Family politics had blocked every escape. Tom Hudson's command was ironclad. Secure the Jones partnership at any cost. The Joneses' investment meant billions to bankroll his elder brother's R&D and fast-track the Hudson monopoly over a breakthrough diabetes reversal therapy. To the world, it would be a miracle. No wrong there if you see this from the layman perspective. To Hudson Sr., it was a golden goose laying golden eggs. Later, Elliot couldn't shake the memory of how drained Tianyu had looked back in the Zen garden. He should be home by now. Feeling guilty, so he decided to at least check in on his wife to hear his voice. He dialed Tianyu's number. Connected instantly, but the familiar ringtone buzzed in his pocket. To his dismal, then remembered. He had snatched Tianyu's phone away in a fit of anger when Tianyu tried calling 911. Now he had no way to reach him. Fuck. Elliot sighed heavily, pinching the bridge of his nose, guilt tightening around his chest like a vice. Trapped by duty, he resigned and prepared himself to endure the long, suffocating night. Sleep wouldn't come, only restlessness and a twitching eyelid. A bad omen, people said. Tianyu must be furious, Elliot thought. It wasn't until early the next morning, after giving in to every one of Eli Jones' princely demands, Elliot was finally released from obligation. Relieved, he rushed out of the hospital and drove home. A jewelry shop window caught his eye. He had passed it 100 times, yet never stepped inside. He had never bought Tianyu anything shiny. Why hadn't he not? The thought stung Elliot momentarily. Maybe because Tianyu never asked? Or maybe because he had grown too used to Tianyu's quiet, forgiving nature. Easily content with simple things, never demanding more? Or worse, had he misread him entirely? The Tianyu yesterday at the city's priciest mall had ditched cheap t-shirt for bold and glamorous brands that echoed Eli Jones' style, though ended up being ridiculed, but maybe that was the whole point. Perhaps Tianyu had finally asked, in his own way, to be noticed, to be spoiled for once. He had money now, more than enough for a lifetime. Why not start pampering Tianyu? Of all people, he should know better that somewhere along the way he and Tianyu's bond had shifted past debtor and benefactor. They had grown into each other's true lovers long before they turned 21. On impulse, Elliot swerved his car toward the mall. He picked out a few crisp high-end dress shirt, added a sleek man's bag, and a full set of skincare. Elliot chuckled to himself as he went, thinking even a male Omega has low defense against vanity. Tianyu, on the other hand, probably wouldn't get to wear them often, not while running his food truck business. But no, didn't matter. Tianyu would still have these new clothes, because Elliot wanted him to have them. He left with arms overloaded with big bags and small, his heart feeling lighter. The gloom of his mood eased. Tianyu would love them, he was certain of it. Elliot floored the gas and headed home. His mind was busy plotting how to surprise his wifey with the luxury gifts when a sudden riot of screams and smoke near the apartment entrance caught his attention. He pulled onto the curb, hoisted all the shopping into his arms, and moved toward the disaster. Thick, choking smoke twisted into the sky. People screamed and scattered. Fire trucks loomed like armored beasts. Water hoses coiling across the ground like thick writhing veins. Sirens blaring against concrete walls. A crushing weight gripped his chest. It didn't feel right. He dashed toward the inferno. When he reached the area sealed off by police, the heat from the blaze pressed against him even on the street. He looked up at the engulfed unit. His eyes locked instantly on the 4 yellow pots burning on the balcony. Even in death, he would recognize them. They were Tianyu's herbs planted for his salad bento. My God! It was his apartment was going up in flames. Without thinking, he dropped everything on the roadside and bolted forward, shouting, "My wife's inside! My wife is still in there!" 2 police tried to stop him, but when fueled by desperation, an alpha strength could combust double folds. Elliot tore free and sprinted up the stairwell. Lungs burning, smoke choking, heat searing, voices shouted, but he heard nothing. Only the drive to reach Tianyu kept him moving. Ignoring the shouts behind him, he charged upward like a madman, desperate to reach their floor. Halfway there, more firefighters cut him off, locking his arms tight. Elliot's eyes bloodshot and thrashing to break free like a man possessed, shouting, "I have to save my wife! Tianyu, can you hear me? I'm coming." "The fire's too fierce, sir," one firefighter barked. "If you go in, you'll only make things worse. We're doing our best. Please, get back down and stay out of our way, or we can't save anyone." With combined muscles, they finally restrained Elliot and forced him back downstairs, leaving him helpless behind the cordon. Then something clicked. He glanced at his watch, 11:30 a.m. normally. At this hour, Tianyu would be at the university, running his food truck. Hope flickered, maybe he wasn't inside. Elliot's first instinct was to speed to the university, but fear still gripped. He fumbled for his phone, then froze. Tianyu's phone was still with him. He had snatched it during last night's stupid fight. Panic gnawed at him. He searched the crowd frantically, desperate for familiar faces. His eyes landed on Mrs. Chan, his immediate neighbor. "Did you see Tianyu leave this morning?" Mrs. Chan shook her head softly. "No. I thought you both were on holiday," Mrs. Chan said. "The house has been quiet since yesterday morning." Mrs. Chan's words shredded the last thread of Elliot's hope. Yesterday's fight flashed in his mind. Tianyu's tired face, the search for the bracelet. Maybe he had slept in. Maybe he had skipped work. Elliot screamed, raw and guttural, dashing toward the inferno again. Police held him back as he thrashed against their grip. No sooner, 2 firefighters emerged. Trudging came down the stairs, their boots pounding against the concrete. Carried it in their hands, a stretcher. A body lay atop it, charred beyond recognition. The stench of burnt flesh hung thick in the air. Elliot's eyes landed on the dangling hand of the charred body. Among the blackened ash, a ring clung stubbornly. Recognition struck like a sledgehammer. It was their couple's ring, the twin of the one still wrapped around his own finger. "No, no," Elliot bellowed, clawing at the air, searching for some mistake. His scream tore through the air as he stumbled forward, the world collapsing into that single hand, that ring, that unbearable truth. Smoke clawed at his lungs, his vision blurred, his knees buckled. Sirens, shouts, and fire dissolved into a distant roar as darkness closed in. In his dream, Tianyu walked away down a long corridor of fire, his figure shrinking until nothing remained but ashes. Elliot screamed, legs locked in place, unable to follow. The sound tore from him until he jolted awake in the hospital, where only his mother sat in silence. "Where's Tianyu? I want to see Tianyu." Elliot shoved the pillow aside, trying to sit up. Mrs. Hudson gripped his arm, her face hard. "Tianyu is gone. Stop clinging to ghosts. You need to bear it and move on." "No!" Elliot bellowed. His eyes burned red as he shook her off, head snapping violently. "I don't believe you. Someone as good and kind as Tianyu should have lived to 100. He can't just die like that. This is a lie. I'll find him myself. Don't stand in my way." Mother moved to block him. "Enough, Elliot. The dead can't come back. Crying won't change anything, you hear me? That fire already displaced 6 families. The damage runs deep, and we're neck-deep in financial and insurance mess. Yet here you are bawling like a child." Something in Mother's words cut through the haze of grief. "Mother, Tianyu was a victim too. How could this be his fault? Why make it sound like he set the fire?" Mother snorted. "Who else would burn down own home if not suicide?" "Suicide?" The word slammed into Elliot harder than the fire ever could. "You're saying he—" No, Tianyu wouldn't." "He's truly dead now, Elliot, so I won't say more. From now on, you must live properly and forget him." Elliot trembled all over. Impossible. Tianyu was always so positive. No matter how hard things were, he never gave up. He would never take his own life. Why none of this make any sense? "You're lying." Elliot's voice rose, hysteria. "Who knows? Maybe something broke him? Something he couldn't endure? So he chose death. Accept it, Elliot. His ashes are already buried. Pull yourself together and move on." Elliot's shout, impossible, caught in his throat, strangled by a flashback. Eli Jones's cruel accusation yesterday, branding Tianyu a thief over the missing bracelet. It stung, sure. I'd be furious if I were accused the same, but not enough to drive Tianyu to death. Hell no, because Tianyu was the sort who'd grin and use it as a blanket if the sky collapsed. And then Mother. Something in her tone. Too smooth. Rehearsed. Unnatural. She'd never liked Tianyu, and now her voice, so calm over such a grave matter, reeked of a cover-up, as if sweeping his death under the carpet. The days after the fire stretched into a wasteland. Elliot barely ate, barely slept. His alpha instincts, once sharp and commanding, dulled into something feral, volatile. Bottles shattered against the walls. Doors slammed until their frames cracked. Without Tianyu, his mate, whose pheromones long since tangled into each other's skin, his body and mind unraveled into bottomless restlessness. Every rut cycle since differentiation had been eased being with Tianyu. Now enduring this cycle alone was like being flaying alive from the inside. He jolted awake night after night, choking on imaginary smoke, fists clenching at empty sheets, though this new apartment smelled clean and sweet. Every time his eyes shut, Tianyu's back vanished into the fire all over again. Suppressants dulled nothing, and the household servants, by now, were already used to sweeping up shattered syringes, littering the floor each morning of his rut cycle. One mid-cycle evening, Eli Jones, dressed seductively, offered to ease Elliot's rut. But his scent, too thin, stench with pity and nerves, clashed with Elliot's raw grief. The alpha in him roared at the intrusion. He snatched a bottle, arm cocked, glass glinting like a threat just inches from Eli's skull. The Omega bolted faster than Sonic the Hedgehog back to the Jones estate with his tail tucked between his legs. The Jones family didn't take Elliot's breakdown lightly. To them, he teetered on the edge, dangerous, unstable. So did the fragile balance between their families. Under that pressure, therapy intervention wasn't a suggestion. It was an ultimatum. Get healed or be disowned. That's how he met therapist Mesi. A beta, calm, unshaken by Elliot's rank or the fury in him. She didn't flinch at his alpha presence. She acknowledged it, then grounded it. He spat venom, words sharp enough to raise the dead. She didn't argue. She didn't flinch. She let him rage. Week after week, She carved space for him to burn out, to let the prime wolf storm through his fury. She watched the hell inside him roar, unchecked, let his fire to run its course. And slowly, somewhere between the ashes of grief and rage, a flicker of control returned. A quiet acknowledgement that even the strongest fire eventually cools. For 3 months straight, Mesi worked with Elliot's instincts rather than against them. When grief triggered surges of aggression, she met him head-on. Teaching grounding techniques, controlled breathing, scent recognition, even pressing his fists into ice until the fire in his blood dimmed enough for thought to take hold. Through the work of grief, she guided him to face his memories of Tianyu, not to erase them, but to hold them gently without being consumed. She helped him whisper Tianyu's name without breaking, without the shudders that once stole his breath. At first, his words came in fragments. You like this? Or he used to be, embracing each small shards of memory, fragile and jagged. Gradually and slowly the pieces began to fit together. Small fragments became full sentences. Sentences grew into stories. And stories unfolded into confession, mourning, and finally release. During one session, Elliot's eyes drifted to a photo on Mesi's desk. A small child, about 6, beaming at the camera. "That's my daughter," Mesi said, her voice motherly. Elliot's jaw tightened. His eyes went distant, fixed on nothing. If Tianyu hadn't lost the baby back then, our child would be about that age now. His voice dripping with longing. That year, he was in his final year at university, barely holding it together. They weren't in any condition to raise a child. But Tianyu, chest thumping, and said, "We got it." He worked himself ragged every day, running the home-base fish paste production, navigated the city's scorching streets and freezing nights, balancing crates of paste in the back of his old man's hand-me-down van. He avoided hiring outside distributors. To stretch every penny, he ate the simplest grab-and-go meals, so that Elliot had enough money for proper food on campus without drawing pity or scorn. In the end, overwork, exhaustion, and poor nutrition took their toll. Tianyu suffered a miscarriage. That day, Elliot knelt beside Tianyu's hospital bed. Tears streaming, he said would quit school and work to support them both. But Tianyu refused. It was hard to get into university, and he would not let Elliot abandon his dreams halfway. After that day, Elliot swallowed his stubborn pride and answered his mother's call, to be officially returned to the Hudsons, reclaiming his place as the second heir. He made a silent vow to himself. Once he had real power, once he had the means, he would give Tianyu the life he deserved. Though the miscarriage hadn't left lasting harm, conceiving had been difficult ever since. Elliot promised that he would take Tianyu to seek the best doctors, explore every possible path, and do whatever it took to build a family with him. But every move he made ran into walls, layer upon layer of crap, standing between him and Tianyu. Each reminder ignited wildfire ready to consume him whole, almost threatening his therapy effort back down to the drawing board. Therapist Mesi didn't let it. "No alpha wall punching today," she teased. Instead, she guided him through reframing exercises with writing. "Violence is your body screaming pain," she said. "Let's teach it a new language." He didn't believe it would help, but he tried anyway. Fingers flying, he pounded out a furious string of curses. Barnacles, rats, every damn thing, into the Notes app on his phone. Then, he remembered Tianyu's phone. He quickly charged it and switched it on. At the password prompt, he didn't even need to think. It was their anniversary, just as Tianyu had told him. Inside, the gallery overflowed with selfies of their sweet moments. Every laugh, every quiet touching. Scrolling through the photos reopened the pain. Tears came, unstoppable. Then, something in the downloads folder snagged his attention. Opening it, his world lurched sideways. Strings of damning texts and videos from Eli Jones spilled across the screen. The most recent one showed his own humiliation. Half drunk in a bar, he allowed Eli Jones clung to him whole body while that damn Omega's fingers made a V sign for the camera. Another video captured the day. Eli Jones ripped off his wedding ring and jammed his Eli special onto his finger, claiming it was practice for a company drama. Even a blind could see every cruel frame was meticulously designed to hurt Tianyu. Then came dozens more photos. Every post featured Elliot, framed at deliberately intimate angles, foreheads brushing over cafe tables, Eli's arm looping possessively around him during errands for the Joneses. Each image was paired with a teasingly personal caption. My stomach hurt, and my alpha brought 10 kinds of herbal tea. Big shot young master even walked me home in the rain. Too sweet to handle. The photos were more than snapshots. They were carefully staged stories of intimacy, meant to make anyone's imagination run wild. One was such image that pushed him over the edge. A close-up of Eli wiping his hands. The caption stenched. My alpha took so long. My hands are sore. Damn it all to hell. Elliot's blood ran cold thinking, Tianyu must have felt so betrayed. He swore he could feel the pain of 10,000 blades piercing his chest. The same pain Tianyu must have carried in silence. Tianyu kept it all bottled up instead of confronting him. Had his silence eventually driven him to suicide? Finally, it clicked. Elliot understood why Tianyu had been so volatile lately because his wife had seen everything. Elliot bellowed in the quiet room, wishing he could rip back time, grab Tianyu, and scream that it had all been lies, that they were all staged, fabricated, that he had never agreed to Eli's engagement. If only Tianyu had confronted him directly, none of this would have ever happened. Frustration and regret devoured him. His fist collided with the wall. Blood oozed from torn skin, dark rivers tracing the cracks like tears made of fire. He screamed at the top of his lungs, It's me! I have caused Tianyu's death. It is I who pushed him to the point of no return. I didn't listen. I have been so blind, so deaf, so damn useless. Suddenly, 4 months of therapy went up in smoke. Every shred of reason obliterated by a tide for revenge. Rage fully consumed him. Those who had harmed Tianyu would pay 100-fold, and when the world had burned in retribution, he would end himself too, to cross into the afterlife to be with Tianyu. Having came to a dark resolution, he returned his tear-clouded eyes to Tianyu's phone. Scavenging every digital trace, he wielded as weapons against those who had wronged him. From the call logs, he ordered his assistant to trace the in-calls with strange numbers. And then there found a surprise. 2 of them led to a postpartum care center. These calls weren't random, they came from purchase data. If Tianyu's number was on the list, there had to be a reason. Digging deeper, he found he'd visited a gynae obstetrics. Then he saw it. Tianyu had been 8 weeks pregnant. Oh my God! The revelation hit him like a hammer to the skull. He toppled from his chair. Clutching the paperwork, Elliot grieved choked him like a hangman noose until his lungs struggled to breathe. He had finally conceived, and yet he had chosen to die with their child? Impossible. He was dead sure Tianyu would not take his own life. Driven by a dark resolve, he plunged into the autopsy details, buying his way through until his hand finally gripped the final report. No signs of pregnancy. The DNA of the dead didn't even match Tianyu. The corpse had been a stand-in. Elliot had Tianyu's grave dug up. Inside, nothing. Not even an urn. So Tianyu was still alive. Ha! Relief crashed through him, wild and almost holy, like Frodo in the 2003 Lord of the Rings, standing at the shores of the Undying Lands. For the first time in months, Elliot felt hope ignite, fierce and unstoppable. As long as Tianyu lived, he would cling to it like a ship's anchor, his steady point on the next chessboard move to make things right. Spurred by renewed rage, Elliot hired dozens of investigators, pushing them to uncover the full extent of the deception. He pored over every surveillance frame himself. Finally, the trail ended with his mother, the hidden architect of the fire, the truth. Elliot stormed into the villa. Mother, Tianyu isn't dead. Is he? You hid him, didn't you? Mrs. Hudson's eyelid twitched, a flicker of panic betraying her calm. It was impossible. How had he found out? Enough pretending, Mother, Elliot snapped. I've already uncovered everything. He slammed a stack of bank statements onto the coffee table. 5 million to Tianyu to leave. Another 5 before the fire. Cornered and flustered, Mother snapped. Nonsense. He came to me first. The words froze on her lips, realizing she had slipped. Silence crushed the room. Under the weight of Elliot's mounting evidence, Mother's defenses collapsed. One by one, she confessed, the truth spilling out raw, leaving no room for denial, no shadow for lies to hide. Did this revelation shatter him like before? No. It only solidified his conviction that Tianyu would never take his own life. Hell, his cute little Bento Omega was the toughest nugget in the world, even fiercer than him. Pride, relief, and protectiveness surged through him. He was alive, and he would find him, no matter what. Like an awakened lion, Elliot, he let his grief hardened into power. He forged it into a two-pronged strike. First, his own family. Elliot pored over decades of the company's R&D files, eyes narrowing as a pattern emerged. A failed diabetic treatment, botched and buried, labeled safe but had maimed and killed 2 volunteers. His leverage lay bare. He held the family's sins in his hands. One calculated shakeup from him, and the Hudson stock price would nosedive. At this point, he intended to wear the cursed label, "Bite the hands that feed you." Gladly. Next on the chessboard, the Joneses. Elliot deployed his own spies deep within the Joneses' finance, masquerading as auditors and analysts, homing on Father Jones. His mission: infiltrate ledgers, trace offshore accounts, expose every shadow of personal tax evasion. This wasn't mere strategy. Elliot had turned it into obsession, a madman's crusade to fill the hollow hours of his lifeless existence with a precise Red October hunt. When the evidence became impossible to dispute, Elliot shed the fiancé's polite facade and closed in on Eli Jones like a hunter. One evening, Eli primed as usual for their night date, excited like a puppy when he saw Elliot stride into the Jones estate, until Elliot's hand cracked across his face, sending him sprawling. "It was you," Elliot roared like a lion finally loosed. "You let Tianyu see that proposal, didn't you? You're the one who tossed that bracelet off the rooftop because you knew I'd bend my back for you." Eli screamed and clawed for footing, but Elliot yanked him across the gleaming floor. "Slap. You forged those disgusting videos and fed them to Tianyu, painting me as the one betraying him." Elliot raised his hand again, poised to strike. "Stop, Elliot, it hurts," Eli screamed, palms cupping his tomato-red cheeks. "Oh, you feel the pain now? That pea-sized brain of yours never once grasped that Tianyu suffered 100 times worse? Does betrayal taste like candy to you? Is crushing another person's pride what gets you high? What crime did Tianyu ever did to you to earn an end that cruel? That's because I love you too much, Elliot." Eli choked out through sobs. "At the cost of 2 lives? Do you even realize he was pregnant when the fire took him? Or was that part of your plan all along?" Elliot lunged for another blow, but the Jones Alpha brothers reached him in time, stopping and wrenching him back. Everyone had heard the blistering exchange. The furious words still rang in the air. No one dared to speak. The Joneses could only close ranks around their little Omega brother, shielding him from an enraged Alpha whose wrath now seemed terrifyingly justified. In the end, Elliot left the Jones estate with his head held high. Eli Jones had been served with the threat of criminal defamation notices over the videos and texts traced from Tianyu's phone, including connections to Eli and his lapdog's IP addresses. The marriage was off, but the business alliance stayed. Elliot had also announced that he chose not to draw his sword at Father Jones's colossal tax fraud. One call could trigger IRS investigation, crippling penalties, and federal charges that carrying 3 to 5 years behind bars. When all dust settled, Elliot gazed out the floor-to-ceiling glass from his throne room on the 29th floor. The hunt had ended. Obstacles dissolved. Enemies were nothing but shadows. All that mattered now was bringing his Omega and their child home. Today, 3 years on, a small semi-detached home on a corner of the Naksun Bay shoreline. "Changwu, wait. Stop right there. I called out, planting myself in front of the door. No way I'm buying this, I pressed on. Just spit it out. I can handle the truth. I can even change. Chong-woo turned, facing me with an infuriatingly calm, like a man stepping out to drop off dry cleaning rather than a breakup. Tianyu, you don't need to change a thing. You're perfect, said Chong-woo, his voice as gentle as always. Please stay. I like you, I pushed, getting desperate. I like you too, said Chong-woo. You're incredible. But the shaman had spoken. Yes, yes, you've said it 100 times, I cut him short. Heaven's dog will eat the moon, right? Chong-woo, come on, you're definitely possessed by that demonic shaman. We should get you an exorcism. Chong-woo's face stayed maddeningly polite, that trademark courtesy I'd come to despise, still wheeled the suitcase to the door. Take care of Elsa. And yourself. He bowed. A full 90 degrees, like I was a diplomat. Then the door shut with the softest click. I stood there, palm on the cool wood, 100% furious, 200% baffled. What the? Who the hell walks out of a breakup blaming the moon? And a bow. OMG. I don't know how long I stayed frozen when the doorbell jolted me. Heart leaping, I yanked it open, ready for Chong-woo's sheepish apology. Instead, a riot of hydrangeas flowers filled my vision. Petals, perfume, and shoes I didn't recognize. I tugged the bouquet down, and my knees went liquid at the sight of a face I thought I'd never see outside a dream. I staggered backward. The bouquet slipped. The same hands that had held the bouquet a moment ago shot forward, catching me before gravity won. One arm cinching my waist, the other gliding across my back to steady me. I tilted my head up. I breathed. Elliot. The name barely a sound before my arms betrayed me, acted in its own, looping around his neck and drawing him down. His lips met mine, and the hallway blurred into stars. I didn't even notice how much time had passed when our lips finally parted after 3 long years of thirst, until a sudden chorus of cheers and hollers erupted from outside the door. I followed the sound. My gaze landed on a tiny little person at my feet, gripping my pant leg. Baby Elsa had scootered herself in her little pink scooter car to me. Her eyes were round as marbles. Tiny lip quivered, giving her that baby-on-edge look only toddlers can pull off. Elliot looked down at his mini-me, his expression totally not surprised to see his daughter. In one swift scoop, he lifted Elsa, grabbed my hand, and led us out to the side yard. What had once been a quiet patch of grass beside this small coastal home was now transformed into a rom-com wedding scene. Fairy lights zigzagged overhead, rows of flower boxes. A small band of musicians waited in the corner, and the big truck with a label Event King emblazoned on its side parked by the roadside. Elliot knelt on one knee. Tianyu, marry me again. Come home with me. My pulse hammered. What if your mother and Eli Jones comes for my head? Elliot's met my gaze, sharp as an apex alpha, and said in a low timbre voice, no one would dare touch what I protect. Ever. I promise. On the white projector screen, a cascade of fleeting moments began to play, like a quiet confession only my mind could narrate. Each frame connected dots I had struggled to comprehend since Chong-woo first appeared in my life, in an unassuming next-door high school PE teacher who, out of nowhere, boldly confessed his love for me when I was 9 months pregnant. Honestly, who in the world would find a swollen all-over clumsy mess charming? Chong-woo wasted no time in inviting me to move into his home so he could take better care of me and my newborn. Alongside him came his sister, Miss Chong-na, who happened to be a culinary prodigy whose laughter filled the kitchen, whose magic cooking nourished me and my mini-me. As for my sex life over the past 2 years, trust me when I tell you, there really was one man in this world who had the audacity to admit outwardly like this, Tianyu, I like you, but I can't have sex with you. My thing is broken, completely useless. At first, I had thought their sudden attentiveness was mere coincidence, and Chong-woo hovering over baby Elsa like a mother hen was probably because his, malfunctioning love sensor. After all, they had shown only genuine care throughout the 2 years. But the montage on the white screen told another story. They weren't just family. They were body doubles, security specialists, strategically placed by Elliot the moment my whereabouts were uncovered. And, as it turned out, Chong-woo and Chong-na were actually husband and wife. Elliot kept my turf under wraps from the Hudsons and the Joneses, while he waged his own battles on his turf. Through Chong-woo and Chong-na's surveillance, Elliot didn't miss a beat of my life, laughing at the video of my heavily bloated self, looking more like a wobbly 9 months pregnant pig. He did not miss witnessing his daughter's first cry, her first tooth, savoring every one of Elsa's firsts he could steal from miles away. I tore my gaze from the projector screen and looked at Elliot. I studied his face. Seemed unfamiliar now, but somewhat sharper, dangerous in a way that dared anyone to cross him. The hesitant man who had once let others dangle him by the nose seemed permanently out of service. Here stood only an alpha who had crossed every fire to stand here. Still, I raised a fist and swung it across his face. He staggered backward 2 steps. His expression wasn't surprise. If anything, it looked as if he had expected my outburst. "That was for you believing Eli Jones over mine," I said, my chest heaving. Then I cracked another slap across his other cheek. The neighbor spectators and people around us gasped in unison. "This is for you not standing up for me." "Ow!" I yelped, clutching my sore hand. Elliot took it all like a true alpha. No flinch, no rubbing at the sting. He closed the distance, bridging the space between us effortlessly. Cupping my sore hands, he cooed, "You," his voice solemn and unwavering. "Thank you for choosing to stay alive. Thank you for keeping our baby. I promise, no one will ever hurt you or Elsa again. I will always fight for our family. I will always protect you." He opened the ring box, and under the spotlight, the 2 rings sparkled like miniature oaths of eternity. But then I spotted something else. Leaning close, I squinted at the engraving, "E.T. loves Bento," etched in swirly and fancy font. "E.T. loves Bento? Ew." I cringed. "Why would you stamp something so tacky onto something this expensive? Don't you like it, baby?" Elliot said, leaning closer, his voice low and velvet smooth. This is the only one in the world. Made for you. Made for us. Remember that, always." Then he picked up the smaller ring and slid it into my finger. Smiling, he said, "Will you come home with me?" My turn. I lifted the other ring from the box and placed it on his finger. Finally exhaling the breath I'd been holding for 2.5 years, I said, "Yes, Elliot, let's go home."